You know Private Ryan?
You're gonna have to speak up.
You're
sir.
gonna have to speak up, sir. My hearing, it's not so good.
German grenade
comes and goes. The German grenade went up right by my head.
Got it. You know Private Ryan? Who? Private Ryan, James Ryan?
Jimmy Ryan?
James Francis Ryan.
No, James Francis Ryan.
All right, give me a pencil. Something to write on. Quick, come on, a pencil. Write this down. James Francis Ryan, question mark, Iowa, question mark. Do you know him? Does he know him? Read the message, look.
Yeah, of course I know him, sir.
Does he know where he is?
Yeah, we missed our drop zone by about 20 miles. Ended up way over by Bumville or some damn place. Him, me, and a couple other guys were coming here to the rally point. Ran into a colonel who was gathering up men to go to, Ramel.
Ramel.
To babysit a bridge. That's the last I seen of him, sir.
Great. Thank you. Read and thank you.
You're welcome.
This was a me pick because like I have my whole like murder mystery genre that I really like kind of, and then I have like I occasionally will just go a deep dive of like different types of historical films, and a lot of those tend to be World War II movies. I just recently watched the movie Emperor. I think I mentioned that on the last one, where it was about the rebuilding of post-war Japan.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of was little like, oh yeah, I like these kinds of movies. And it kind of sent me back down this rabbit hole of like, I think I watched Midway, and then I watched Flags. There was an HBO series. I think it's called The Pacific. And I watched that, and then I watched 1917. Then I came back and I wanted to watch Saving Private Ryan. So that's kind of why I picked it. But it's not necessarily like a light movie, but I think the thing that's so interesting to me about these kinds of movies is like, one, like I have such a hard time comprehending that being reality, but
right.
And not that distant, that's like
no
less than 100 years ago, Yeah. So I like straight up don't think I will ever understand what that's like, but I think it's both fascinating and terrifying to me to think about like what the consequences of that were to go a different way would have been.
Yeah. I think about that all the time as well.
And it also kind of like, I mean, if you can kind of like tune out all of the really nasty stuff about like war in general, it's coming from somebody who knows nothing about it, but like the strategy behind that kind of stuff, when you can kind of like take the humanity out of it and just think about it as like a chess game is also interesting to me. And what Saving Private Ryan's all about, D-Day basically, and then going and kind of like that, it's basically like a mini mission within that whole operation. And like, that just has to be such a wild thing to, one, just try and plan. And then two, how you like replan as things go wrong. Cause like in this movie, obviously it's about D-Day, the invasion on the beaches, and then, trying to go save one brother who's surviving the three brothers who passed away on the beaches. And I mean, that's like actually what happened. And you can imagine just how chaotic that would be when, you have paratroopers going in behind, and like, you're literally getting dumped out of a plane, like being dropped in like, God knows what, like that had to be terrifying, confusing. And how do you organize anything out of that? It's just, I mean, it's not something you ever want to be in the position to have to do, but like, it is kind of fascinating as soon as you take away all the like really terrible things that becomes the reality. But I don't know. It's fascinating to think about when you don't actually have to be a part of it, but I just wish it never had happened.
It's insane.
It is crazy, like you said, with the like not that long ago and like that it happened of like there's so many people too who like joined the war then, but that was just a pocket of their life. Like they weren't like my grandpa on my dad's side, Pop, you both of you know, like he was in the Navy in World War II. Like, you know, he like joined when he's 19, but that so wasn't part of his identity. You know, like I never thought of him as like a military person. He never talked about it, but he had like, and that was so many people. They had this like they joined when they were 19 to fight the war, and like they lived that for a little bit, and then they just like came back and had this other life, and they weren't military people at all, but they just like had that
They still lived through
experience.
that, which is insane.
Well, and I think that's kind of one of the things that I think is probably different, if you ask me anyway. It's like, from what I can tell, like most people I know know somebody who, you know, some family member who was somehow involved in World War II. Whereas if you took any of the like more modern conflicts, like, yeah, you'll find people, you know, who are involved in one capacity or another, but like, it felt like it was a much more ubiquitous thing back then. Like everybody was in for the effort of like, you know, either manufacturing back home, supplies, rationing, actually fighting. Like it was much more of a ubiquitous thing across all of society. Whereas now it feels like you could almost live your entire life not even concerning yourself with what might be going on halfway across the world, you know?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like also like, I mean, I don't know because I'm not in war, but like, I feel like to me, this time, like this era, like this movie is literally the epitome of war to me, where it's like people are literally fighting like almost hand-to-hand combat. But I feel like, I mean, I don't know how it is now, but I mean, from what I've heard, it's like not the same. It's more like less gunfighting, I guess.
Yeah.
More,
We don't fight wars on the ground anymore as much.
No.
We like occupy land, but we don't have like the trenches.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Where
and you think about that, like over time, like if you look at like, at least from the US's perspective, like the bloodiest war in terms of like deaths is the Civil War, obviously, because we're fighting each other, but also just in terms of like pure, like, you know, volume of people that died, because I feel like there's a little bit of an ebb and flow. If you look at like where the like technology of war is at versus like tactics and like where just like people are at, like all of those three things kind of coming together, like basically the big thing that happened in the Civil War was they had like exploding artillery, like cannons that explode, as opposed to just like shooting metal balls across the, you know, the lines. And they didn't like figure out to like, I mean, they still kind of lined up similar to how they did when you're just like shooting and pointing muskets at each other.
Right.
Which that never would have made sense to me. But like, I don't know. It's just some of that's like fascinating, but like, you know, you can understand why in that type of a world, you have very high casualties, because like, you're just going to get blown up, you know?
I know. It's crazy. Like, and it people just like, you know, they would just be like walking, like something for me, like the opening scene is so good. Cause like how they shoot it, it's almost like a found footage movie where it's like you're there and like you're kind of with Tom Hanks's character, and it's like he's just walking and someone just gets shot in the head, and he's just like talking to this person 1 second and they just like stand up and get like shot. Like, that would be insane.
Yeah, it has to be so like, and you almost have to desensitize yourself, because like I don't know how else you would deal with that.
I don't either. But
one of the things in that scene in particular that I thought was interesting is like they at not until like maybe like 10-15 minutes into that scene did they show like the face of a German soldier, which almost made them feel like a little more menacing.
Yeah,
I thought like they'd show the view from the machine gun turrets, but always looking up, because it was kind of like found footage.
I kind of wish they used that throughout. As much as I liked how there was no like main villain. Well, I mean, technically there's a main villain, but like there's no like one person. I mean, in the movie, there's not one person that's like but I kind of liked how it was like you didn't really see their faces or anything. I kind of wish they stuck with that throughout, but it was interesting to see them like interact with the other side throughout the movie.
It was it was shot cool, and I could be wrong. I feel like though right when this came out, this kind of like was very new of how war movies were shot.
Mhm.
Of like, and like
Oh,
I
yeah.
feel like I've heard a lot of like military people say how like this was a more accurate kind of like version of what things were like than other movies, but like really truly showing it as like a very like not well, I mean gore for sure, but you know, like not there's no subtle beautifying of what it was.
Right.
It was just like that first scene, the way it's shot and like the shakiness, like you're discombobulated
Crazy.
too, and then you see like a guy with just with like his guts out like pretty quick into the
Yeah.
movie kind of thing, and you're like, oh right, you know, like it sets the tone real fast, like this is what war is, you know.
Yeah.
Like,
And I think like this is my favorite war movie, I think, just because I don't know, I think it's just so well done. Like I think they capture the emotion really well. I think like it really puts you in the position of everybody else, I feel like, because like it's a lot of tight shots, and yeah, I think it's
It just feels chaotic.
Yeah.
Very chaotic.
Yeah. And the cast, so good.
This is, I don't know if I'd say this is my favorite Tom Hanks movie, but it's up there.
He's so good. Yeah.
So good.
I heard that they like casted Matt Damon not wanting a big name, kind of just like a you know, like a pretty face, and then from the time they cast it to when the movie actually like shot and came out, it was probably like Good Will Hunting or something. Like he was a giant face.
Yeah, because
But when they cast,
yeah,
when did Good Will Hunting?
I think the same year.
Yeah.
Hold on.
Yeah, so it was like one of those where like they didn't want a big name for him, and they picked Matt Damon, and little did they know they picked someone who would become an icon. And
so Good Will Hunting came out in 97. This came out in, hold on, it was 98. But I think so the Oscars were
yeah, that
probably
makes sense.
like right around when this was coming out. So like it was probably
So
like the worst time.
Good Will Hunting. Yeah, it was like, oh my god.
That's hilarious. I love that he's in this though.
Well, would you pick Matt Damon in this or Harry Styles in Dunkirk?
Oh, Matt Damon for sure.
Okay.
All the way.
I just think of it the same thing. It's like I remember when we saw Dunkirk, and there's a point where I feel like I didn't know Harry Styles was in it, or like it wasn't talked about, and you're just sitting in the theater going, "Is that Harry Styles?"
Yeah. And it was.
And this, like, I'm totally like engulfed in this movie, and then I'm like, "Hold up, that's a giant. I know who that is."
I did love that. Like going back to like camera stuff. I loved how like sometimes there would be like blood on the camera. I think that really also elevated it a little bit, because it was almost like, I don't want to say like Call of Duty, but it kind of was like a video game in a way, like first person type of thing, which was super fascinating. Now, because Jesse, you haven't seen this before, right?
I had seen at least parts of it, or
Okay.
yeah. I feel like there's a bunch of like a handful of like classic movies where I'm like, I can't remember like sitting down and watching it, but I for sure have seen most of it,
Mm-hmm.
kind of deal. But like, it's not like I don't think this would ever be played on TV, would it? Maybe
Probably
edited
some version, but yeah.
ABC Family movie.
I watched it. It was like recorded on YouTube TV. That's where I watched it.
Oh, interesting.
So it must be on TV. I don't know.
Oh,
Yeah, I feel like
okay.
everyone's just
Yeah.
desensitized nowadays. I feel like everything's on TV.
Yeah.
I just played it in the video store while I was working.
It's also like somewhat based on a true story,
Interesting.
which like, I mean, I think it's loosely based on a real story, but that was the part that like when I'm watching it through the first time, I remember thinking like, there's no way they would do that. Right. But kind of, yeah.
I know you would think like it's kind of a weird thing, but it makes sense that when you think about it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, you read it the first time, it's like, oh well, this is a nice story,
Right.
but like, yeah, would this happen?
Yeah.
I know. And like think about like I feel like it was so normal for them. I mean, they had people literally dedicated to writing letters for like lost.
That
people.
was
I like,
part
that's
of
crazy.
what was I remember when they showed that scene, It was like presumably, like a captain or some higher ranking person's voice overlaying like just an entire room of women on typewriters, which that actually kind of struck me as a little odd because it's like whoever was receiving that letter is probably reading it with that voice in their brain, like as if it was like, somebody who was like had intimate knowledge of this person. And it was just like a mass operation, which, I'm assuming that's accurate. I don't actually know, but if it is, that's all the more crazy.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah. It's such a weird time. Like it's such a bizarre, like throughout the movie, the medics and stuff, they would just like follow these people and hopefully they would save one or two people's lives and like still have to fend for themselves. It's crazy. I don't know how these people did it.
Absolutely wild. I don't know if we have any locations for this, but I do know that the Omaha Beach sequence was filmed in Ireland.
Ooh, no, but we'll have to add that because we don't have any Ireland.
We have to find which beach, but
I can do that.
You get an Ireland location in the app.
Oh, cool. That's fun. I'll have to do that. Irish listeners out there, you should go to all the beaches and
this would have been, how cool would it be to see this being shot? Like if you lived in Ireland and you like walked by and this was set up on the beach.
I always think about that, like specifically this movie, but like war movies in general, like first of all, how many cameras they have shooting, but like they have to make sure everything's like nothing in the background is like modern and you can't see a camera on the side or I don't know how, and explosions and make sure the debris is all, the continuity. I don't know how they do it. It stresses me out just thinking about it.
It's just like a tourist on like a Segway in the background riding through.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny because sometimes there are some movies like that where there's like, they're supposed to be old, like, based in like the 20s or something, but you can see like something in the background. And it's like attention to detail. It's like, especially in war movies, you need that in war movies.
Part of like when I get down this rabbit hole of like these types of movies, oftentimes I'll go back and like the people who are really hardcore about this stuff will make like videos on a movie, like on YouTube or something, where they're talking about how historically accurate it is. And to the point of like having modern things in the background. In Dunkirk, the entire like opening scene when you're walking into the town, it's like actually Dunkirk, but it's modern day Dunkirk. They did it in the real location, but the trade-off was like, all the street, shops and stuff that they're walking down, they look normal. And
interesting.
That was not the case, it's like they were very much bombed at that point,
That's fascinating.
I have to rewatch that part.
I know.
And the other big critique out of that movie was just that like the sheer number of people on the beaches. And when I went back and watched it afterwards, I was like, oh yeah, the beaches are pretty sparse here. And you'd expect like a Lollapalooza style, like tents everywhere, like, but as far as Saving Private Ryan goes, I've actually heard kind of the opposite, that that's one of the more realistic, both historically realistic and like visually realistic.
Doesn't surprise me because I feel like Steven Spielberg is a smart dude. Yeah, I'm sure he went into it with. Also, Steven Spielberg, he's such a fascinating filmmaker because he literally can make any type of movie.
He's got range.
True.
He's got range. That boy's got range.
Did Spielberg do Schindler's List too?
That was I think that was Polanski.
That's Polanski.
Hold on, let me see.
Is there another big World War II movie though that Spielberg did?
Oh wait, no, you're right. He did Schindler's List.
He did?
I was thinking of something else. Yes.
Yeah, I feel like it's.
Oh, I haven't seen it.
I mean, just talk about iconic like World War II movies. Spielberg's.
Segue.
Knocking them out.
I'd be like,
not my pick.
We got to bring it up after this one.
Spielberg also did Bowfinger, and
he's doing Bowfinger 2. The Return of Chubby Rain.
I'd watch it.
I would probably watch it. But yeah, you have like Adam Goldberg's in this, and like the guy from Friends, Frank. Phoebe's brother. Forgot he's in
I
it,
know that.
and he's so good. He's the medic guy. Oh, he's so good. And then
Oh,
mhm. I don't know. I love the end the end fight is so good. I think it's so well done. I think that's my favorite part, I think, is the end. I mean, the opening scene's incredible too, but
Also super historically accurate. And that's something that would not ever be the case today, but like
mhm.
defending a bridge was like a big deal. You know, like how do we get from here to across the water was like a problem.
That's so crazy, man. It's
But
like- and without like
yeah.
all this technology that we have
Yeah.
nowadays.
Right. But there was one other thing. Oh, the one thing I don't that I got watching it this time that I didn't get before, but I also still don't really know, is the whole FUBAR thing. What is that? Like
What was
that's
FUBAR?
always like a programming thing for me. Like when I'm at working and stuff, like FUBAR is like typical, like just like garbage variable names. But does that have a meaning that I don't know about? I guess maybe I should look that up.
I don't know.
yes. Because I feel like I remember looking this up again when it would come up, and there was like a program back in the day called FUBAR. That was like an audio
Oh.
player or something.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Do you remember when? That was the first
I-
time I had heard FUBAR.
so I just looked it up, and apparently it's an acronym between for fucked up beyond all recognition.
Oh, there you go.
So there you go.
Wow. What an acronym.
Yeah. All right. Well, there you go.
Cool. Fun
Yeah,
facts.
now we all know.
You learn something new every day. But I always think about like also too, like in war movies, like when there's planes, or, you know, when they're like planes are flying over, like especially at the end when they like saved him when they blew up that tank. I feel like how do they aim so well? And how can they tell a difference between I guess the color of their outfits, but like I guess they have to have really good eyesight.
Yeah.
pilot.
I mean,
But like if they
You-
just shoot like sporadically.
this is
when you
part of
hit
what's so
someone-
crazy to me with like technology versus the time versus like how people use like the tactics and all that. Like if you look not too long before World War II, World War I, they had just invented the plane.
That's crazy.
And so you were literally like the Air Force was like people in planes with pistols.
Uh-huh.
That's so crazy.
And you know, 20, 30 years later, you know, they figured a few things out, I guess, but I don't think it was as easy as they made it look in the movie.
No,
There's
definitely
a
not.
well, two things. One, it reminds me of. Have you guys? I know we've talked about War Dogs. Have you seen War Dogs? The Jonah Hill,
I
No.
don't think so.
Miles Teller. There's a scene where they go to the Middle East to traffic guns, and they're being chased. You know, and they think they're gonna die, and then they see like a U.S. plane come overhead and bomb the car chasing them, and they're like, "Oh yeah, America, baby!" And I'm like, that's like what I think of though when like crazy, like just a plane coming out of nowhere.
It,
Right.
yeah,
Taking
that
out.
feels like more like a movie, like Save the Day, like
Right.
Yeah,
wrap everything
yeah.
up like all in one.
But they're good timing for me for not really loving war movies is I literally about to start. I just got Malcolm Gladwell's new book, The Bomber Mafia. That's
Oh.
actually about like this group of people during World War II who basically really thought that we could fight the war in air with like and figure out how to like pinpoint where the bombs would be dropped and like do it very strategically. So, you know, because World War II, we just killed a lot of civilians. And
Mhm.
like a part of the story is like Curtis LeMay, who's like the head of the Air Force maybe at the time, who kind of was the one who went crazy bombing Japan with napalm. Like, but there's this whole story around that time where it was like it's a new thing, and we had bombs, and there was this group of people who were like very much like we can figure out the math and pinpoint this, and like do this very strategically. And a lot of people were like, that's crazy. We can't do that. Like we're dropping bombs from a plane.
Right.
You just
can't,
drop them, like
you can't
Hope for
control
the
that.
best.
yeah. So this was a good lined up with that. But I think that it's supposed to be super interesting. Both of you could really like it. The audiobook's supposed to be really good because he made the audiobook like a podcast almost with like original
Oh, cool.
recordings and other people. And
Interesting. Yeah, I'd
but-
listen to that.
yeah, the Bomber Mafia.
The Bomber Mafia. All right.
Interesting.
Cool. I know. I think
So-
about it. Oh, sorry. Go
Sorry,
ahead.
go ahead. No, you go.
I was saying, like, with planes, it's like also radar, like GPS. How the hell do you go somewhere?
Well,
like,
and that was early days too for radar. That's like Britain
Right.
used radar a ton.
it's
A
fascinating.
whole nother. It was a terrible time, but like you also think of like the whole story of Enigma that came out of World War II, and that was kind of like how modern day computing started.
Oh, right.
Lots of real interesting, for better or for worse, nuclear power came out of that. Nuclear bombs also came out of that. Like all sorts of like good and bad things came out of that time, which is just, I don't know. It's just wild to think about.
And again, like you were saying earlier, it literally was not long ago, which is crazy to me because like where we are today with
It
technology.
feels
and
like a
everything.
long time ago, but because it's not
not.
our lifetimes, but it's
our
really not that long
grandparents.
ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard Malcolm Gladwell talking, and it was just interesting. They were talking about trying to put your mindset in like what it was like, and how they were saying how like Japan was so far away that like we couldn't even really get there until we took Guam, or like but nowadays they were like, we have stealth bombers take off from Kansas, go do their work in the Middle East, and get back by dinner. Like
Crazy.
it's not. But back then it's like, how do you even find like the bridge again? You're like, we literally need to be somewhere,
right.
like occupy the land.
And Tom Hanks is like, oh, I'll take my pistol and try to blow up this tank.
I like that part.
I did too. It was so good. Classic Tom Hanks.
Yes.
Classic.
Do we want to do ratings for this one?
Yeah.
Sure.
I'm going to use foo bars as my
I think you
unit.
have to.
I think I have to now that I know what it means. I am going to go with 8.7 on this guy.
Ooh. Why not a 10?
Probably just because it doesn't, it resolves, but I don't love the resolution.
Mhm.
If they faked the resolution and basically just like, I wish the whole thing didn't happen to begin with, which kind of makes me wish the story just didn't exist.
There just
But-
was no movie.
That's
But
Joe's review.
because it
8.7.
does-
I wish it didn't exist.
Yeah. But it's I think is well done. I'm happy it was done because this is another World War II quote, is the whole Churchill thing of those who fail to learn about history are doomed to repeat it. And so I think it's important to see that, feel that, and do whatever you can to avoid that.
Mhm.
But
I also feel like
this is my take.
I feel like that's a good way to put it because I feel like I personally don't know a lot about like this time, especially the war. And like it's just like I don't know, I've never really learned. I guess we learned it in school, but like it doesn't like interest me in that way. But stuff like this where I can actually learn about it, and I feel like I have more of a, I don't want to say respect because I've always had respect, but like more of like an understanding of like, especially like the cemetery scene. Like you drive by these cemeteries all the time, and you're like, oh, it's a war, whatever.
Yeah.
But I feel like this movie was like, oh, these people actually like. This is a story about someone visiting these graves because they were close with someone. And I don't know. It's fascinating to me.
It humanizes the
Human,
people
exactly.
yeah,
Totally.
yeah.
And they did, that is interesting because this is literally, because this was a year, I don't know. It was near Titanic. They did the same structure because in Titanic, you have Rose as an old lady telling the story. And then they show basically, the movie is basically her life or the flashback. And this is the same thing as Ryan's. It's the same structure, which I thought was kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Jesse, you want to go? I want to think of a good unit.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have units, but
It could be units.
What?
Units of units.
Units of troops.
Units of troops. Yes.
A muster. That's not the right way to use it.
Mustard.
Muster, like you muster together troops.
Oh, I thought you said like
muster.
ketchup and mustard.
No. Maybe I'll just you do mustard. But yeah, I mean, like Joe was saying, I actually liked it more than I thought I would. It's interesting it all being on the actual fight part, like the war part, not like I don't know, because like Joe said, with the also the Churchill quote,
Yeah.
learning it, so you don't repeat it and stuff. It's like I mentioned last time, like one grandfather was a Holocaust survivor, and while a lot of them don't really talk about it, there's still this like there's always a message, I feel like, when you like grow up Jewish, where it's like you're very aware of it because it's like this happened, don't let it. There's like a quote of like, I'm not going to remember exactly, but of like, you have to speak up when you see it doing to others, because if it's being done to you, who's going to speak up, kind of
right
deal. And there's like, that is very like heavy, obviously, from World War II. And then again, my other grandfather fought in the war, but it was such not a like part of his identity, or it came up. There was just like classic stories he'd tell that definitely, again, as a kid, I was like, my grandpa's crazy. Like they didn't happen. He'd be like, we were on the ship and we were being shot at, and they told me to like hand out the ammunition, and people were running up to me, and I was like, no, get in line. Like you go to the back, like stories like that. Or the classic one is he was on a ship and he was pulling the lever to pour like the oil into the fire to keep it going. Which again, this is also doesn't even make sense, but he was like not paying attention and holding it down, and it just was like overflowing with oil, and all the suits were, and I was like, I think you'd all be on fire though. But anyways, I just mean like that's like what we were told growing up, and it was such a like not a real thing. And then we learned that these stories, there's no way these stories actually happened. He did kind of forget to untie one of the big boats to the dock, and they like pulled the dock off of the water. There's an article that did happen, but
really, maybe that's why he doesn't identify with like war so much, because he's like, I don't want to think about those times.
Yeah, possibly. I mean, yeah, I get it, because that's again the thing that was so crazy is like him, and there's so many people, and like you said with the graveyard, like people going, and like everyone in that war probably saw people they know die.
Oh my god,
kind of thing of like
day,
how crazy that is. So it was like an interesting, I don't even know how to describe it, but like that whole essence of, but it's it's that movie totally on the war side, like the being in battle, like Dunkirk, like very specific to just like this is the story of like these people in it. It's not really about the greater World War II. I mean, it is, but the story is.
Which is what I like about it, I feel like, because you don't really see those intimate stories. You kind of know the whole gist of everything, but you don't like see like everyone's personal journey, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah, and it's kind of I like that they actually like sandwich the movie with like the graveyard, like even before too, and so you have it, but you don't realize kind of, and it just seems to, at least from the outside, make it more real that they sandwiched it between those graveyard scenes. But so I'll go paratroopers. We'll go an 8, which is way higher than I ever thought I would.
Yeah, that's higher than I thought you'd give it too.
But again, like last time, it's like if you are into war movies, or like this is like a 10 out of 10 classic war movie. It's one. I was like, what did we? Oh, Gilbert Grape. It was one of those things where I'm like, oh, if you're anywhere even in this genre, or where, like, this is one you have to watch, kind of deal. Like this is part of the education of like war movies, and like how it changed how war movies were shot, and like the take on it and everything. So it's, if you're in the air, it's like 10 out of 10 for what it is.
I
I'll
think
go
that's a
an
good way to
8.
put it.
Yeah, it's a really good way to
I'm
put
very
it.
curious
I wish I
to
went
see
before you
now.
now. So you
I'm curious to see now too. Like we say every time, we're like, I rate this an 8. What did I rate lower
I
than this?
know.
Kind of deal.
Spider-Man 3.
That's what I think of every
I feel
time.
like I'm perpetually going to be like, did I rate this more or less than Spider-Man 3?
Yes. That
As long as it's not below the little
finally
things.
people. That's true.
Yeah.
People will finally they will have seen Spider-Man 3 now. That episode.
Yes, after that
Because it
podcast.
was fun.
Oh, right.
Well, like when this one's out, they'll have seen it.
That's true.
So, well, I mean, if they watch every
Our
episode.
dedicated viewers.
Dedicated. Shout out.
Cool. I will.
We shout out some.
Following that.
I was like, Checker
Yeah.
Fred, I know is.
Yeah, so I think going along with Jesse, I think this is a 10 out of 10 like war movie, like classic. If you're looking for a war movie, you're into war movies, watch this. This is like the epitome of a good war movie, perfect war movie. Personally, I think I loved it. This is my favorite war movie. Love the cast. I weirdly like, I've seen this so many times, but I feel like every time I watch it, I still see something new. Or like I still notice something, which is kind of interesting because it's not like that type of movie, but I like that aspect of it. It's a little long, but I think it did need to be that length to like kind of like give these characters personality and you could kind of feel for them. And I feel like it was fine. I mean, the length, it was a little long, but I think it was.
I kind of feel like it wore you out a little bit, but almost like.
Was that pun intended
intentionally.
or?
Oh God.
War.
Uh,
War you out.
wore you out.
Men's Warhouse. But I think for me personally, I think I'm gonna give this also an 8. But I mean, I wouldn't want anything more, but I wouldn't want anything less. I just think
It's
I don't
exactly
think
what it's supposed
not
to
a
be.
10 for me, like just because I'm not like a war movie, like I don't seek them out. I don't watch them all the time, but I always love watching it. So it's not my
I
generally
feel
type
like
of genre, but I do appreciate them when I watch them because I have liked mostly all the war movies I've seen. I'm just not like, oh, let's watch a war movie. But
I get that.
I feel like I do have to, since I kind of famously shit on Dunkirk when we saw it.
yeah, you did.
I feel like I do have to like publicly also be like, this is better than Dunkirk. If you're thinking
enough.
about this in Dunkirk, don't watch Dunkirk. Although I feel like I should rewatch Dunkirk, but
I kind of want to rewatch.
shitting
it
on
too.
Dunkirk has become part of my identity. So I can't go back on it.
That's very true. Even if you like it after you watch it, you still have to shit on it.
I can't change my, yeah, I know. It's real tough, but
Oh man.
Yeah.
Should we get into movie news? Any movie news?
I'm
oh,
trying to
well,
think.
do you want to break your news first?
I have
Or
movie news.
Let's hear it.
So, I mean, obviously, we all lived together in Portland, and so this came across my news feed or something, and it was like 3 words that I was like, oh, what is going on here? It was Portland, Nicolas Cage, and Pig.
Yes.
whoa.
Yes.
So there, if you haven't seen the trailer yet, you have to go watch it because I mean, I can't tell if I think it's going to be amazing, terrible, or just like an instant. I don't know. It could go any way. I don't really know, but I'm excited. I'm totally gonna watch it.
That's the
when it
best
comes
place
out.
to be.
But it is about it's a Nicolas Cage movie filmed entirely in Portland on Nicolas Cage as a truffle pig farmer, I think. But it's kind of got a little bit of like Keanu Reeves vibes, where like
John Wick.
I think yeah, from John Wick, where like, you know, his pig gets taken and then he's like, give me my pig back. And I have
Like
no
Liam
idea.
Neeson.
Or
in
Well, because
Taken.
John Wick, his dog dies,
His
which is
do- yeah.
basically his
that's
like,
the like catalyst for everything.
yeah.
But yeah,
is-
also
is
like
Nick
Liam
Cage
Neeson
like
was
a-
taken.
Yeah, like I don't know who you are, but
I'm gonna
not even
find you
remembering.
if you don't give me my
yeah,
pig
I'm
back.
gonna find
This is
you.
actually Nick Cage is like gonna fight Liam Neeson as the Taken character in this movie.
Whoa, that
That
would
would
be
be
crazy.
cool. That would be good.
No, but
But,
I'm so
like,
glad you brought that up though.
But like, yeah, I saw this and I was like, oh my God, this is crazy. And like, yeah, I can't tell if it's just gonna be like a very mediocre movie or like something that's going to be like actually good. I don't know.
Well, let's
But
see.
we will
Who's-
find out.
Ooh, that's exciting though.
I will say, Alex Wolf's in it. He's great. He's
From the Wolf Brothers.
From Wolf Brothers. He was in the Hereditary and My Friend Dahmer, and great actor. So it's got potential.
I've got a crazy movie pitch idea. I feel like this needs to be a segment. Like this needs to have an intro as
movie
well.
pitch. I love it.
Bunch of so like this movie or like Taken style, maybe not Taken, but where there's like two sides. There's like clearly the like hero. I mean, in Taken, yeah, I'm not saying the bad guy's the hero, but you shoot the movie from like their point of view, like the guy who took his daughter, kind of thing, and you shoot the point like the actual movie Taken, but you don't let people know you shot both sides. So then you release one side, and then like 2 years later, it's like, boom, same story, different side, totally different movie. Like vantage point, but not in the same movie.
Right.
But just do like two. Just do two different movies, yeah. And again, keep it under wraps. So then like 2 years later, you just drop a movie.
Well, there was
like, holy
so you know how the first Cloverfield movie is like found footage, basically. And there was a scene where they're on the Brooklyn Bridge and they're turning and you see another guy with a camera. And so people wanted a second movie based on that other person's perspective, which I was like, that would be really cool, actually, if they kind of did the same movie, just two different perspectives, which is literally what you just said.
They actually, and this is funny that this is getting brought up this time, two other war movies that are filmed from two different perspectives is Flags of Our Fathers and Letters from Iwo Jima, where Flags of Our Fathers is the Battle of Iwo Jima from the American perspective, and Letters from Iwo Jima is from the Japanese perspective.
Interesting.
Oh yeah,
that would be cool if we did
otherwise the same exact story.
It'd be cool if we did like an episode of like a versus, like we watched both of those and like talked about it. Like,
yeah,
kind of cool.
Be interesting. But yeah, it's an interesting concept, being able to do like two sides of the same story.
Mm-hmm. I mean, essentially
from that perspective.
I feel like war movies are essentially that, because like, I mean, you have Pearl Harbor, which is like from you're in Hawaii, but then you have like Tora Tora Tora, which is the Japanese movie. I don't know. It's interesting.
Yeah, and I mean, usually history is told by the winner, but there's always two sides of the story, you know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that's interesting.
Other movie news.
Conjuring 3 came out. Oh, sorry. Were you going or were you asking if we had any movie news?
Oh, no, you can go.
Okay. I was like, Conjuring 3 came out on HBO in theaters. I haven't watched it yet, but
D and I watched that literally the night before we left last weekend.
Oh, really?
For our wedding.
Oh yeah, married.
Without spoiling anything, it's a love story. When you watch it, you'll know what I'm talking about.
I'm okay with that. One of the best movie couples of all time. So I'm okay with it.
Yeah. So just be ready for it.
I love them. Cool. Well, yeah, I mean, I feel like there was more, but I can't remember anything outside my head.
I know both you guys now have seen Bo Burnham's.
Oh yes,
special that we brought up.
You said something when you were recommending it that you thought it would be like one of the like the things you would look back on to like try and understand what quarantine was like through COVID, and I 100% agree.
Mm-hmm.
And also it just kind of is funny because like I feel like the way he did it is how I'm gonna like remember COVID, because it's just him alone in a room. But the actual content itself that he made, and like the jokes and very Bo Burnham-y style songs, I feel like also kind of captured a lot of that really, really well.
Oh yeah. He did such a good job. It's fascinating.
And
one of the more creative things I've seen in a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, when I was showing Joe, because again, to Joe, I was like, I think he'll appreciate a lot of the way like he shot, like he did this all himself. And we were talking about how like they should show this in film school. Yeah. Just to be like, 100%. This is what like this, he did it in a room by himself, all the lighting, all the shot, like talk about creative,
If anything, shooting, they should be shown like a lighting class, like
Oh yeah, the lighting in
Yeah.
that was ridiculous,
Crazy.
especially
cool.
given he did it all himself.
I feel like they need to have like a DIY like film class or something like at school. Like
You should
because
open
we
a DIY film school like
that'd be
course.
cool.
You know,
That'd be
like a little summer camp.
Sounds like that
2
needs
weeks.
to be a master class or like
Yeah, he should do. He
One-
should seriously do a master class.
Oh,
That would be.
be fair, I don't think he'll ever do a master class.
No.
It seems very anti-Boomer, but
For sure. 100%.
but like I feel
bro,
like you
we
can't-
can and we can make the money. We
yeah,
on class on
class.
on lights.
on
lighting.
lights.
But yeah, I don't think there's any other movie news that I can remember right now. It'll all come to me, of course, after we stop recording. But
Yeah. But Pig, that's the big one.
Pig, I'm stoked on that
Pig's
one.
the big
actually.
one.
Oh, you got to pick your movie.
Yeah, I do have to do that.
You haven't done it
We
yet?
literally almost didn't do that.
No, it was on my mind.
You trying to segue it?
No, I think what I'm gonna go with is speaking of new movies, I'm gonna try a new movie again.
Whoa.
Shot in the dark. But I'm gonna choose. It's on HBO Max and in theaters. You can choose whichever one you want. In the
Conjuring,
Heights.
is it The Conjuring 3? Oh,
Yes.
Lin-Manuel Miranda's
He and
new.
I just watched this like 2 days ago.
I already watched
you
it.
go.
Never mind. He's already seen it. Technically, he's already seen it now.
But
I don't- what is
super
it?
recently.
But it's Lin-Manuel Miranda did Hamilton. In the Heights was the Broadway play he wrote
he did
before about.
Hamilton.
Joe, are you so out of the loop, man?
I don't know anything
The
about
guy who
Hamilton.
made Hamilton.
I've never
The
seen
guy
it,
who
I don't
made
know.
it. Okay, but the guy who made it.
I don't know.
It was like kind of a big cultural moment in our society.
Sheesh.
You should have picked
He
that.
he wrote a play before that, a musical called In the Heights.
Okay.
And that has now come. They've now made a movie about it.
Cool. Is
on
it a musical?
Musical. It is.
Sweet. I'm about it. Cool.
So I'm gonna go with that. You
Cool.
know,
I'm excited. I feel like I have to watch Hamilton as well.
You do.
you should, yeah, on Disney Plus, watch the original cast. They recorded the original cast on Broadway,
Okay.
and it's
It's
really
very
good.
it's very good.
Cool.
Yeah.
In the Heights. I'm stoked. Is it
It's in the theaters and HBO
ooh, maybe I'll go see it in theaters.
Max, so you could see it in theaters,
In
I
the
believe.
Heights. Yeah, I've never heard of it. Cool. I'm excited. Love new movies.
I think it'll be a fun one.
Pick.
Yeah, I feel like it'll be happier than this one.
Well, everyone dies, spoiler, but but yeah.
Cool.
Cool. I'm excited.
Is that a wrap?
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Is there anything else? I feel like there were so many things I had to talk about, but
You gotta write
Yeah,
them
I was
down.
gonna say, I
I
feel like there
know.
was a couple things. There was, speaking of, this isn't really movie news, kind of, but like because I was thinking of Malcolm Gladwell earlier. He has a podcast called Revisionist History, and like the new season's coming out soon, I think. And they're not out yet, but he does 3 episodes on The Little Mermaid and why it's a
Interesting.
horrible movie.
really?
Yeah, so I'm really excited to listen to a 3-hour deep dive on
awesome.
that. But
Interesting.
yeah, I don't know. Is there?
We
Again,
did
I
go
feel
to
like there was
we
new
went to a couple
movies.
locations this past week.
Which ones?
Jesse and I went.
Jumanji.
We went to Jumanji. That was kind of fun. And the house in Northampton. Different.
All right, what was that from?
Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf?
Who's Afraid of
Never
Virginia
seen
Woolf?
it, but
It's a classic, I guess.
apparently it's a classic. Yeah.
You should watch it.
I know I should watch it. But yeah, I don't know.
This is not really movie news, but it's news for me.
You're married?
Well, yes,
You're married.
but related. Yeah, I got married last weekend. But related, when we got home, we watched My Big Fat Greek Wedding, which I had never seen.
Oh right, we were gonna do a little
Um,
episode before.
What'd you
And
think?
the movie is so funny.
It's
and-
funny, right?
We ordered Greek food for it, which made it all the better.
Oh, nice.
Vulas?
Yes.
No.
Yep.
All right. Shout out to
Ooh.
Vulas in Rochester. Great place.
Oh, I love your hair. Oh, when she grabs the hair. I love
I
that.
was like, thank God our families are not quite like this, but
Oh my god. Yes and no, because it would keep it interesting all the time.
it would keep it
we
interesting. This is
we
true.
did shoot my big Italian wedding last weekend.
That's true, Uncle
Yeah.
Marvel.
And then we also talk about shooting the two sides. We shot that from Joe's side, and then we shot my big fat Irish Catholic wedding also at the theaters. Going to be dropping them back to back, so watch out.
There is a sequel to My Big Fat Greek Wedding. I haven't seen it though.
Ooh.
Instead of
think
the
they-
roast lamb, it's just cookies.
So some good cookies,
And
man.
pasta dishes.
I tried one of everything.
I'm still
Maybe-
eating cookies.
Maybe more than one, to be honest.
I didn't have any dessert, any of the dessert.
Yeah, I didn't have much either, but anyway.
I went hard on the desserts. So I was dancing with a cupcake at one point for a good portion of it.
There wasn't any truffle flavor, anything, so I don't think Nick Cage needs to be worried about us. But
Yeah, we're good. We're good.
We
That would be
didn't take
scary.
The
if
pig.
he- Cool.
I'm pumped for the Nick Cage movie though.
yeah,
We could pick it when it comes out. We have. I feel like we
whenever
can
it
pig
does,
it.
we have to. We have to.
We can pig it.
No watching it until we do it on this.
That's true. I won't. Yeah, I'll wait. Cool. But In the Heights, about
Into
it.
the
In the
Heights.
Heights.
Into the Heights. Is he directing
In-
it too? Did he direct
Is it in or into?
In the
In the
Heights,
In the
I
Heights.
believe. He wrote, I believe it's the director from. Nah, I'm already blanking.
Hold on, I'm pulling it up.
Because I feel like it was like from Lin-Manuel Miranda and the director of.
Oh, he was in Mary Poppins,
Yeah, Lin.
the new one.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, I remember that. John Chu. What did he do? Oh, he did G.I. Joe. He did Step Up.
Crazy
2. He
Rich
did
Asians. Right?
Justin Bieber movie. No, this guy
Is he
did.
the director?
The director did like the Justin Bieber movie. Now You See Me. G.I. Joe. Step Up 2.
Huh.
So that's the director, which is interesting. But about it. The writer.
True.
I don't know the writers. This was like her first thing. Cool. About it.
Man, I really. Oh, he did. Yeah, he directed Crazy Rich Asians.
What?
Now You See Me. Yeah,
It's
that's
funny
what
because
he
Crazy Rich
directed.
Asians isn't on the IMDb thing. You know how it shows like their top 5.
Yeah, it's
Crazy
just
Rich
further
Asians is
down.
not even on there.
No, it is.
Which
It's
is
just
weird.
much lower.
Oh, wait, weird. I'm getting a different one on my desktop version.
Hmm.
IMDb, you need to fix. Also, their new website is terrible. IMDb, fix your stuff.
Save that for hot takes. Close the episode.
Sorry.
Close it.
All right, I have to. We'll do that.
We'll get into that later.
More to come on IMDb and their website.
Watch out,
Also-
IMDb.
Also, buy us out, IMDb.
Make a plea.
All right, I think that's a wrap, right?
So rippity rap. Saving Private Ryan.
In the Heights.